Hey, my name is Matthew Zabricki, and in 2020, Motley Fool acquired the podcast that I was co hosting with my co founder, and it was the largest site acquisition to date for Motley Fool. Tremendous success. But I also went on to drive sales, about 7 million in online sales, through the individual creators that I got to work with along the way. In this video, I'm going to show you the three questions, essentially the checklist that I would run through on these high ticket sales with these individuals. And I'm going to show you that these three questions are all you need to ask to really drive home a lot of value for someone when they're paying as much as $1,000 per call. So I went through this book yesterday. Check out the video, The Checklist Manifesto. It's about how this author was able to reduce the errors being caused by doctors, I think specifically surgeons. And so this book gave me insights into how to drive change in an organization that you might not even be involved with, but sort of you're able to show up and say, hey, by the way, you're doing it wrong. I know you're a surgeon that graduated from Harvard, but here's how you do surgery. I mean, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. But here's somebody who was able to not only have people listen, but also change their behavior and actually do the things to produce better results. And so this book was a great testament in terms of how to drive change. So similarly, I took some of those principles away, but also I did it as a business owner too. So when I was taking on onboarding clients, I essentially had a checklist of kind of understanding, where they're at, what are their hopes and dreams, what are their major pain points, what are their fears, understanding each component of somebody before offering any advice. And so now I'm going to dig into some of the three questions, the three takeaways, kind of like the main things I would do on each of these high-end ticket sales, like these intense coaching calls. So a lot of people I think have this misconception of you have to offer a ton of value. And I found that really what I would often do is listen to see where they're at and identify currently what stage they're at. Are they going from 0 to 1? Are they trying to scale from 1 to 100? Where are they at? Are they just trying to start a new product, a new service in a different, zone outside of their main market, right? So understanding what are they really trying to get to, because I don't need to necessarily give them, I've heard this description before, but I'm not trying to give them an oak tree. I'm trying to give them a seed, right? And it's best when somebody has their own idea and they come to the conclusion themselves. And so really what this is one of the first three things is finding an insight, just one insight over what that next step is. So not crystal, making the 5 year goal crystal clear. It's really just having them come to a realization of what that one thing is next. And you can do that by asking open-ended questions, like how would it look like 2 weeks from now if you hit this 1,000 out of 10? What's something in your business that you're tolerating today? There's different types of questions that you can kind of get more information, but really, again, we're just driving to get that one key insight. So that's one of the first three things, is just having that one insight and just reminding them of that one insight. The second thing is really from that insight, building towards what is that next step? What's that next action that they need to take? What's the one thing that's going to drive the results? And I'm not talking about, further research or, further thinking or brainstorming or anything like that. It's a tangible action that needs to be taken, and it's going to take probably a lot of massive work. You're probably going to need to, maybe they might need to hire somebody new, or they might need to, really just buckle down and get something done. So what's that one action that they need to take? And again, I don't want to walk away with two, three, four, five things that they need to take away, because so far we're at two of three, and the two things, right? The one insight and the one action that they need to take. And we're almost done here, because the third one is actually holding them accountable to the prior action that they set up for. Now, these calls I would usually do like a 20-week program, or 6 calls over 12 weeks. I had these different programs because I find that to drive real change, it often takes a few of those calls in a row. And especially in that space where I was basically helping people develop and launch their own membership sites, that was my bread and butter back in the day, and that was something I really loved to do. And it was just amazing to get the results from people, especially when it's recurring revenue. People love that. I think it builds a lot of stability within the business. But I'm probably getting just too excited about that, just whatever. But I'll say this: it's the action to get towards that. there's not that many steps, and people will make it so complex so quickly that it's just nuts. I think it's just like, complexity is the enemy of execution, right? You want to be able to crystallize that one next step, and then on the next call, you hold them accountable to it. And so that's an hour-long call that I would usually do. Today I would probably just do, I would never do an hour again. I think 50 minutes is good, especially when you're stacking these calls back to back. It's good to build in that little bit of buffer. But whether that's a client you're working with at $1,000 price or $100 a call, I think for me, what I found was developing those three things on every call, achieving those three things was much more effective than giving a lot of value, offering too many things, giving tons of different ideas, pointing out five different things to do. Because I've discovered that when I walk away from a call just as a coachee, right, someone receiving the advice, when someone tells me two or three things to do, I'm always going to do the things that are not going to be as impactful. So if there's three things, I will pick number two and number three on that list, even though I really should be doing number one. That's just the way my brain works. But when I was being coached and being told, hey, you got to do this one thing, I had no excuse. I had to buckle down and get it done, right? And even if it might take less time, maybe my energy wise, it just took a lot of effort, or broke a success barrier, what have you. And so again, those are the three things I think as as a project leader, or as a coach. That's kind of the framework I've used now whenever I'm dealing with high ticket sales. Now, I'm no longer coaching people anymore, but I still apply that framework today because I find that that's extremely beneficial. And I've also talked about this in another video with the one thing, and it's just trying to crystallize and just drill down into what's the most important thing. So, kind of rambling now at this point, but I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe. There's gonna be more content like this. I think I'm gonna try to lean more into some of the crazy business stuff that I've done before, right? I love to talk about, personal finance, or books about communication, but for me, it all channeled into the ability to really build a business and service a lot of people, in terms of, for free via the podcast versus, with having millions of views and hundreds of thousands of subscribers that got a lot of free content. But also, if you're familiar with online sales, when you have that big of an audience, you always have a certain number of people that want to pay for more direct access. And for me, that ended up being, coaching, group coaching, consulting, group consulting. Well, not group consulting, but one-on-one consulting work. And that was something that who knows, maybe 10 years from now it comes back. But for me, I got a lot of value out of that. And I think just the last piece of what I was trying to say there just a second ago is the skill set of being a coach and learning what it means to be coachable, learning skill sets around coaching other people, seeing people grow, nourishing that, fueling that growth. That's a huge skill set that's been instrumental. So even if you're not actually coaching or you don't want to get into that sort of space, I think it's a great skill set to utilize no matter what. So again, this was something I learned as part of building out my own business and then working with other people that wanted to do the same thing and recreate, kind of have that same success story or that success line. It's not guaranteed, it's a lot of grit. It's a lot of just getting into the nuts and bolts. And even then you're going to, it's still going to be a lot of adversity you got to go through. But again, hope you got something on this. Drop a like, and then leave a comment if you got an insight out of this video. Let me know what that is. Would love to hear from you. Until next time, peace.